So diabetes, first of all, we have to talk about is a metabolic disorder. And what does that mean? Basically, that means it's a disease that has to do with how food converts into energy on a cellular level in our body. And there is a dysfunction there.
Just a little taster of what is coming up on the show. But first, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. And also tell your friends and family about this podcast. Please let us know in the comments if you would like to hear any particular topic in relation to sleep or health. Then I will create a show especially for you, just for asking the question. So let's get on with the show.
And you are very welcome back again to another empowering family health podcast. I am your host, Joanne Callahan, and I am super excited about this particular episode. I have an amazing guest, and we're going to talk all about diabetes. And diabetes is something I think everybody should really know about or be aware about, whether you do have diabetes or not. There are a lot of health concerns and issues and problems and all sorts in the world, and I think we owe it to ourselves to be responsible for our health. So I have the amazing Dr. Jelina Shah. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes,
yeah, great.
ma'am.
Great. So before I bring you in, I'm going to just read out your bio so everyone can get to know a little bit about Dr. Jelina Shah. So Dr. Jelina Shah is a clinical pharmacist and holistic diabetes health coach for people with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes. With over 15 years of healthcare experience, Jelina approaches diabetes differently. Not only does she address the medications and the health risks associated with diabetes, but she also focuses on the root causes by attending to the emotional and the mental aspects of the disease. She has helped hundreds of patients sustain lower blood sugars, lose weight, and take fewer medications so that they can live their happiest, healthiest lives. And if you want to manage or even reverse, yes, I did say even reverse your diabetes holistically, then you can contact Dr. Jelina Shah, and we're going to be putting all her details in the show notes of how you can do that. So, will I call you Jelina or Dr. Shah? Which would you prefer?
You can call me Jelina. Let's keep this friendly.
Yeah, that sounds good. Brilliant, brilliant. So Jelina, come on in and say hello, and you're very, very welcome. So great to have you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. What an honor to be on your show. And I'm just excited to talk about my passion, which is diabetes. And it's a strange hobby to have, but it's all mine.
Everyone has their own. Let's face it, everyone has their own. So let's dive in, and I'm interested, I'm curious, Jelina, what got you into this? Give us a little bit of your background and why you're passionate about this area.
Yeah, diabetes hits really close to home. My dad actually has diabetes, as well as several uncles of mine on my dad's side. So I have a family history of diabetes. And years ago, I was carrying around 65 pounds of extra weight on my body. I was sitting at the doctor's office. She walks in, she's shaking her head, looking completely disappointed. And she looks up at me and she says, "It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when you are going to get diabetes."
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was in that moment, my heart sank. It was in my stomach. I felt completely overwhelmed. I felt so ashamed and I felt guilty because I knew I wasn't making the healthiest choices. I knew I was being sedentary. I knew better, but it just never occurred to me that it was going to occur to me. I think I never thought like, oh, well, I always thought it was a possibility, but I didn't actually know it would happen that soon. And through that overwhelm and all of that, I was like, well, I saw what my dad was going through. I didn't want to lose my freedom around food. And so I decided to take the steps to try to investigate what I had to do to make things better. Because the only thing she told me was, you need to eat better and exercise more. Well, great. But what does that mean? Because if any of us have been on the internet, and you've Googled, there's so much contradictory stuff. At one site's telling you to eat eggs, the other one's telling you not. The one site's telling you apple cider vinegar is the way to go. One's telling you CrossFit's the only way to make your body like lose weight. It's so confusing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to empower people. And I love what you said. It really hit home with you. I could really hear that, the shock and the horror and the shame. Shame is a big one, isn't it? And I could really hear that. And what I could also hear was, that we are all individuals. When you say, what's good for one person is poison for another, and we're all bio individuals. So we all have different needs and we need to be responsible for our own bodies. So this is what we're going to talk about here today, and really to empower people to be responsible for their health, because for so many people, we wait until we're sick and then we do something about it. But you know what? We want to live a really healthy, happy life with a good quality of life. So that's what we're here to unfold and help empower people. So before we dive in, what is diabetes, Jelina? Many people heard of this term, but what is it really? And tell us about the different types of diabetes, just to distinguish that as well.
Yes. So there are different types of diabetes. So diabetes, first of all, we have to talk about is a metabolic disorder. And what does that mean? Basically, that means it's a disease that has to do with how food converts into energy on a cellular level in our body. And there is a dysfunction there. So with type 1 diabetes, that is the diabetes where they do not have insulin. So insulin is a hormone that we have in our body. So every time food turns into sugar in our body, because when you eat, food turns into sugar. So once it turns into sugar, that's what becomes energy. So you need someone or something to come and shuttle it off to your brain, your muscles, your organs. So insulin is like a conductor, if you think of a train conductor. And
love it.
Yeah. So I'm going to borrow an analogy from Dr. Jason Fung. So he talks about our cells are a train, and we're going to say that the sugar are the passengers on the train and insulin is the conductor. So here's the problem. If you don't have any conductors, no one's there to open the doors of the train. So all the people are stuck on the platform and no one's going to where they need to go. So that's type 1 diabetes. It is a fatal disease in type 1. It used to be people would die from it because your cells were basically starving to death because they couldn't get the sugar. I don't help those folks because they need insulin. And that's not really controllable on their behalf.
When would you get type 1? Is this when is it like you're born with type 1?
Yes, you're usually born with type 1. Exactly. So most of these people, they used to call it juvenile diabetes because this is when they would find out is when they were children. So, they're usually a lot younger in childhood. Now we have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, which is also known as insulin resistant. And when you have insulin resistance, what happens is that you got the trains and they're moving and people are getting on and off the train. But the problem is that the conductor or insulin isn't able to open the doors all the way. So people can't maybe get in. So the sugar can't get into the cell like it's supposed to. Or the other thing that happens is there are so many passengers. It's like rush hour and the train is full. So your cell is so full of sugar and the conductor's trying to push more people onto the train, but he just can't. And that is what type 2 diabetes and prediabetes is really about, is the conductor can't get to do his job efficiently because there's just too many passengers. That's where I can help. Because if we can eliminate some of the passengers and kind of either stagger or, kind of give people different times to get on the train, things will be a lot more orderly. And the passengers of the sugar can get into the cell and go where it needs to go without feeling overwhelmed.
That is a fantastic analogy. Wow. And that's so simple for people to follow and to understand. So you mentioned insulin resistance. We've often heard of blood glucose and having too much blood glucose sugar in our blood and insulin. So what happens when there's too much insulin in the body? What can go wrong when there's too much insulin?
It's not so much that with diabetes, at least, it's not so much to do with that there's too much insulin. It has to do more with the insulin. It's like the conductor isn't able to do what he's supposed to do, which with diabetes, that's really what it's about. It's like resistant. Like there's it's either overwhelmed because there's just too much sugar running around, so it can't do its job efficiently, or it's like a lazy conductor. He's like kind of opening the door and not really opening it all the way. And so it's not really
effective.
about having too much in it. Yeah. It's just
And
excess sugar.
And this would this be one of the reasons why so many people complain of being tired during the day? Because they're not getting the energy from their food.
They're probably, well, I think it factors in for sure. I think the other analogy I always think about is a car. If you fill your car with a bunch of garbage, how far do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, that's
I
true.
tell people to fill their car with the premium gasoline, the good stuff. At least I live in California, so it's like $8 a gallon. I don't know what the conversion is, but it's expensive. So I tell people, fuel your car with all the good fuel that you have, because that's what's going to give you energy and longevity to move the distance.
The good quality stuff. I got it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Talk to us about sleep. So I talk a lot about sleep, and I talk about diabetes and obesity and overweight, and how there's a bi-directional relationship, and sleep is so overlooked, especially when we're talking about diabetes, because that has a massive, massive impact. How our hormones work, how insulin and the growth hormone work together, or, when there's, the relationship between them. And there's so much involved that so many people overlook. Can you tell us your perspective, your expertise on your view of this whole area?
Oh my gosh, thank you for asking that. Yeah, sleep is critical, and it's free. I know it doesn't sound like it, but it's free. It's going to cost a lot less than a medication. There is a statistic out there that it just takes 4 to 5 days of sleep deprivation where you're sleeping less than 6 hours. Your insulin sensitivity, so the way your conductor works, like he might be sleeping on the job, basically, it decreases by 25 to 30%.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And that's just in 4 or 5 days. So we have a lot of people running around sleep deprived because they've got things going on, or they feel like they're busy, or they don't want to invest the time in themselves because they feel like they have to prioritize other things. And I get that, but how quickly you can get yourself into a state of prediabetes is so fast when we lack in sleep. And it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing too, because once you have diabetes, your ability to sleep well is also hindered.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And so these people tend to often weigh more. So obesity tends to be a factor. They need CPAP machines, or machines to help them breathe.
Sleep apnea. Yeah.
Yes, for sleep apnea. Exactly. And so we have to pay attention to the fact that, health and wellness, we have to look at the entire picture, and sleep is no different. So if you want to improve your blood sugars, I know when my patients wake up with high blood sugars, how did you sleep? Well, I didn't sleep that well. Interesting. Yeah. No amount of medication is really going to fix that. We can try, but it's like chasing something.
Yeah. And another thing that I talk about as well is the fasting element as well. So I talk about oh God, what's it called now? Where we have the window for fasting. So
intermittent fasting.
We have intermittent fast, and then we have the time restricted eating as well. Yes. So can you talk about that as well? Because that's really important, because this allows our body to reduce the blood glucose in our body when we fast. And how all the healing, and then when we sleep, when we have less blood sugar in our body. Talk to us about that, because that's really critical.
Oh my God, this is something I found out and I thought was so fascinating. I tell people that you need 12 hours. Okay, 12 hours of your brain to be free from food.
At least.
Yes, at least, because your brain, it gets toxins. It's just like the rest of our body. Your brain also gets toxins, but the way to clear out the toxins in the brain is to give it 12 hours free from food, so all that energy can go up there. And we do this when we're sleeping. So this goes back to the sleep component. So, if you can have 12 hours of fasting in the evening, it gives your brain the ability to clear out the toxins. And you know what? You'll wake up more clear-headed without that brain fog. You'll have more energy. And it sounds really strange because we think of food and we think, oh, we're going to be energized. But think of all the times that you've eaten a heavy meal, especially before bed, how hard it's been to sleep. Or if you're over full, or even if you overeat it, we have holidays here where we overeat. Like we have something called Thanksgiving here, and we overeat, and how sluggish you get after a big meal. You don't feel energized. So we want to have a period of time where your body has time to do all the other things, and it doesn't have to shunt all its resources to your stomach to send all the sugar where it needs to go.
Yeah, I think the body is so intelligent and it knows what to do, but we have to allow our body to do what it's meant to do and how it's programmed, because our body has the ability to heal itself from any disease, you know, and it's been shown time and time again. And, you know, if we go back to when we were living in the caves, we had no light and electricity, so we couldn't cook or eat late at nighttime. So we've evolved thousands of years with this habit, and our body has adapted to this. And now, maybe in the last 100 years, you know, with all the 24/7 we have light, that when the light bulb was invented and all of this, and we're up late now, and we're eating very late at nighttime, and the wrong types of foods as well. Tell us about types of foods as well, you know, because protein and all that kind of stuff.
All this, so all of it matters. And so I try to say this, I don't think there's really good or bad food. I look at food as either being nutrient dense or not nutrient dense. And what I mean by that is it full of minerals and vitamins and the things that our body needs to move forward? Going back to the car analogy, are you filling your car up with premium gasoline or something lower grade? So if we want our car to function at a high, you know, our bodies to function at a high level, you want to fill it with premium gasoline. So I have, you know, and as a gift, I will definitely give you guys the link, but I have a guide for the types of foods to eat, and it's a plate. I look at it, I like the plate method. It's a 9-inch plate. Half of it should be non-starchy vegetables. They're full of fiber, and because of that, the fiber helps slow down the process of the food from turning into sugar.
That's crucial.
Because all food turns into sugar. So the slower it is, the better. And they're full of nutrients and all sorts of minerals and vitamins and all that stuff. And I won't get into, like, I know our soil isn't that, you know, the best and all that, but the point is it's good for you. The next part of the plate, a fourth of that plate, should be about it's protein. So another way to look at it is if you look at your hand and you look at the palm of your hand, that's a portion of protein. You should have that at every meal. Why this is key is this also takes hours to turn into sugar in the body. The last part, which is the part that people get the most upset with me about, is the carbohydrate. Let's be honest, carbs taste so good. The bread, the pasta, the rice. I even count beans, potatoes, and corn in that. And it tastes delicious. Let's not lie about that.
Yeah. We're just after pulling fresh potatoes from our garden out here.
They're delicious. And again, it's not that they're bad for you, but we have to monitor the amount, because the thing about carbohydrates and starchy vegetables, it only takes 30 to 60 minutes for it to turn into sugar in the body.
Wow.
Compared to hours. So you think about what that does. It's all of a sudden you're creating a rush hour system in your body, right? We talked about all the passengers trying to get on the train. That's what carbohydrates do. So, you know, there's a couple ways to offset that. One is to watch your portion of carbohydrates. So I say first you want to do about a fourth of your plate. Another way to look at this is if you take your hand, you cup your hand like someone's going to pour water into it, and whatever fits in the cupped portion of your hand, that's a portion of carbohydrates at a meal. Another tidbit I tell people is eat your carbs with protein or high fat, but definitely protein. Protein.
We need fats. Yeah, we need good fats.
Yes. And that's the other thing. Fats also take hours to turn into sugar. So, and they taste delicious. Like, let's not lie, like avocados, olive oil, full fat butter, that stuff tastes good. So cook your veggies in that. It will slow down the sugars. And we have had a whole thing where they say like low fat's the way to go, but there was a correlation between low fat and the diabetes and obesity increasing. There is a correlation because it started happening around the 80s, I believe. And there's a correlation that when the low fat diet started getting implemented, that we started to see a lot more cases of diabetes and obesity. So go for the full fat. It tastes delicious and you'll probably even lose some weight. Go figure.
Absolutely. Isn't that like, it sounds ironic, but it is. It's so true. Countless
Yeah.
studies have actually shown that. Can you talk to us just very briefly about the two different, when you're talking about fats, the two different energy sources? So from sugar and fats, like they're two different sort of ketones.
Yeah. So the way I so there's two things. Sugar is fast energy, which we know, like you eat it. I'm sure if you have kids or you've been a child, you know, you give a kid a piece of cake, they're running off the roof, right? But then once that's gone, they're depleted, they're out, right? So that's what burning sugar is. Now, when we're burning from fat, it is long lasting. So when we're a sugar burner, these people will start to identify because they get hangry, which is a term that I use.
Oh, yeah.
Irritable. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've
You
been
have
there.
yes. So you have all sorts of physical symptoms. And what that means is your body doesn't recognize that you have fat on your body to use for energy. Because we're storing fat. Now, Dr. Jason Fong has so many great analogies. This is another one of his that I like to borrow. Yes. And this is, he talks about when we go, like, let's say you're going to the grocery store, you go to the grocery store and you put some fruit on the table, you put some in the fridge, and then you've got a deep freezer in your basement.
Yeah.
And fat is the equivalent to the deep freezer. So at first you're going to eat the food that's on the table. You're going to go to the fridge. But once that's out, you have to know to go down to the deep freezer to get the food. And the problem is most people's bodies aren't adapted that way. They are used to having to go to their basement to the deep freezer to get that food. So you have to train your body.
I love it. That's such a great analogy. And you're so right. So many people, their bodies are just used to burning sugar that they're not used to the fat burning. And we need to alternate every so often and give that to our bodies. Plus, good fats are very healthy. The brain loves ketones. The brain loves using them. And actually, it's been shown in studies that when we're burning energy from healthy fats, that the brain is even more productive, more clear, more focused, right?
Yes.
And so many people have, they're going around talking about with brain fog and not being able to think clearly, their memory problems, all this sort of thing. So it's crucial for good brain health. And look, our brain is made of fat. Most of our brain is made of fat.
Yes.
So, God, there's so many places I want to go from here, but we're running out of time. Can you tell us, so how do we talked a little bit about food, and food is crucial because you said at the very beginning, it is a metabolic disorder. So therefore food is critical, the right types of food. And I always say the timing of food when we eat is critical as well. And if we go according to the Chinese clock, I don't know if you do look at this as well, you probably do. The best time to eat is midday. The best metabolic timing is midday, actually. Something else one of my clients did, I thought they were great. I just think I'll mention this because we all think that fruit is very healthy for us. It is, but fruit contains a lot of sugar, and some fruits contain more sugar than others. And a client of mine told me they have a big, huge bowl of fruit right before bed. It's so healthy. And I'm like, no. Sugar rush.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So here's the thing with fruit. I tell my patients it is healthy, but we have to look at it. I read in another book by Dr. Gundry. Yes, he calls it God's candy. Because that's really what it is. It's not, maybe not God, but you can call universe or whatever, but it's nature's candy. It's sweet for a reason. And it does contain a sugar in it. It is healthier because it does have fiber and some minerals and nutrients, but I tell people to really keep it towards the morning time. So midday morning. And you could do a cup of fruit or a small piece of fruit in a day. Great. And I limit it to that. And I say pair it with a protein. Again, we want to slow down the process of all the passengers trying to get on the train at the same time. We don't want them all to be on the platform. So
it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So much sense. So now that we have this information, this knowledge, we can be more effective at how we're eating and utilize our food and the energy that we're taking from our food as well with all this information. That's so great. So I want to ask you just really quickly, diabetes has a host of other problems that comes. Can you just list a few of them so people that are aware?
Yes. So you are twice as likely to get a heart attack or a stroke because diabetes, and this is what people don't understand. It's not just about high sugar. It actually affects your blood vessels. So there's two things you have to think about. You think about how like a vein and how like blood goes through it very rushing quickly. We've seen the slide, I'm sure, at some point or another. But when you have diabetes, it's like having honey. It's like having honey go through your veins. It's so much slower. Yeah. And the elasticity. So another way to picture your veins is like a rubber band. You want it to be elastic and movable. But what happens when you have diabetes is it does make your veins and your arteries more fragile. So when we start having issues with that, we have little veins that go to our eyes, so you can lose eyesight. We have little veins that go to our kidneys, which can cause dialysis. It causes problems with circulation, which is why people with diabetes are more likely to have amputations. This is why it also affects the fact that you are twice as likely to get a stroke or a heart attack, because all of these things have to do with your arteries and your veins and that system. It makes the veins not as pliable. So they're a lot more brittle, and it's like putting a rubber band out in the sun. It's like, how easy does that break? So this is why it's important. We want our veins and our arteries to be supple and elastic. And to do that, we need to remove anything that's not allowing that to happen.
Yeah, I love that. And heart disease and cardiovascular disease is the number one killer in the world. So, what better reason to look after your health? And type 2 diabetes is more often related to lifestyle factors. Is that fair to say?
I would, let me tell you, the number one thing in the guidelines is always lifestyle change, because no amount of medication can reduce your blood sugars the way lifestyle can. That is why it's always the number one recommended thing in all guidelines. And so, So
lifestyle, so that includes sleep. So sleeping better, going out and exercise, sunshine. Yes. Oh my God, there is so sunshine. Much. Oh my God, I live in Ireland and people always correct me, say, do you mean daylight, Joanne, not sunshine? Because we don't have enough lot of sunshine here, although we've had great sunshine the last couple of weeks. But daylight and getting it first thing in the morning, that resets the circadian rhythm, and we're getting our vitamin D. And there's new research as well to show the infrared portion of the light spectrum of daylight can help with our mitochondria, which is our energy centers in our cells. So that's a whole other story. We won't go into that today. But there's lots of research about daylight, been really super good for you. So getting out, getting daylight, the exercise, eating more healthily, even our mental health and our emotional resilience. We want to look after that too.
They call Alzheimer's diabetes type 3 because so it can also affect your brain. I just want to point that out there. I know you mentioned earlier about some of the stuff with the brain fog and stuff. Alzheimer's is known as diabetes type 3. It has to do something with the glucose going into the brain. So something to consider.
That's, and it's another factor as well. And like there's lots and lots of factors, and we want to do what we can to reduce all these different factors and, reduce our risk. And there is a lot that we can do. There's another thing I wanted to ask you was supplements, natural supplements, things like cinnamon, I know can help reduce blood sugar. Is there anything else that you would recommend people should try?
As far as like supplements go, I'm more of I love a lot of herbs, and I'm Indian. So we are using all sorts of spices all of the time. Everything from like turmeric to,
turmeric's a powerful one.
Yeah. Turmeric's wonderful. So, when you're cooking, use the things. I always tell my patients to go out, and as long as it looks as close as it can to what it looked like when it came out of the ground, then you're good. And I think, it's like a box of cereal doesn't come out of the ground like that. It's been really highly processed. And there's a reason when they process things, some things do need to be processed. Don't get me wrong, but we want to keep to as true to what things look like when they came out of the ground. So as far as supplements go, I'm more of a food person. I do believe that our soil is depleted. So maybe you need a multivitamin, maybe a probiotic can help, but can't get as much of it as you can from your
food sources first.
And stuff does help, like cinnamon and ginger. All sorts of things can help, but it's
lifestyle is more potent, really. I think the whole lifestyle. Getting out, getting the daylight, the sunshine, eating healthy, eat the right foods, and it's all the holistic. It's all holistic, isn't it? Really?
Yes, it is. And that's the thing with these chronic diseases. We are so fixated on, because listen, when it comes to like a piece of like a bacteria, we can fixate on that and give somebody an antibiotic. But when it comes to chronic diseases, it doesn't work that way. We have to treat the person as a whole. We can't just treat the biological aspect, because let me tell you, no matter how many medications someone takes for diabetes, if they are stressed, it is very, very difficult for us to control their blood sugars, to stabilize them.
That's something I just wanted to touch on before we end, is stress. How does stress, because I don't think people underestimate stress, and most of us think of emotional stress. There's physical stress, emotional, chemical stress, but touch on the emotional part just for people to get an idea. What does that do to our body?
Wow. The thing with stress is that we let out adrenaline, we let out cortisol. And what happens then is that it makes us, give off glucagon, which causes our sugars to rush out. And the problem is then it increases our blood sugars. So, here's the thing about stress. We all have it. It's inevitable.
Yep.
So I tell people it's the tools and the resources that you figure out on how to manage your stress is what's key, because you're going to face stress. It's part of life.
Yeah.
But how are you learning to manage your stress? So when we are able to, look at our mindset, to meditate, to journal, whether it's prayer, to whatever, it doesn't matter what your religion or beliefs are, but do you have a faith in something? Do you have connections with people, that sense of belonging where you can lean on people or family or friends, and, taking the time to walk in nature and enjoy the greenery and all of those things.
Love it.
Seem like they matter, but they do.
Yeah, no,
studies are showing it,
absolutely. And I love walking nature, the meditation. And I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding about meditation. Meditation is not like sitting there going, it's so much more. It's really just sitting in silence, being present, all that kind of stuff. And, some of the times, walking is a type of meditation.
Yes.
So it's powerful, and we need to be aware of all the distractions going on during the daytime, because this is one of the things I talk about quite a lot when it comes to sleeping well at nighttime, because we're so focused on everything outside of us and we forget to come home to ourselves. So mind yourself. I always say to people, mind yourself, take care, mind yourself. That's so important. Be kind to yourself, because we're our own worst critics, and all this adds to stress. And stress it's so lethal, stress, and we do so much to manage our stress with all these tools that you were talking about. Look it up online. There's loads of information out there. But Jelina, we're coming to the end. Can you tell people where they can find you if they want to know more information?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So I have a Facebook page. It's Jelina Shah Consulting. I have a website at www.jelinashahconsulting.com. And I also have an Instagram and an email. You can email me at jelinashahconsulting.com. Yeah. I love to hear from people. My whole thing is I want to know how to support people the best way I can. I have been there. I've been overwhelmed. I've felt the shame. I have totally can relate to a lot of people in their experience. And I don't want them to go through those feelings, because I know how hard it was. And I want to be there to support people any way I can. So
that's
reach
so
out.
So folks, there's loads of ways you can speak to Jelina, and obviously she really wants to help you, and she's going to give us a free gift. We'll put the link in the show notes as well for you. So that's very generous of you. So thank you so much for that. And just one other thing I just want to really touch on. So before we go, I think it's really important. Obesity and overweight is becoming chronic, and that is very much related to diabetes as well. So if you are someone who is overweight or obese, do consider the possibility. You can get a blood finger prick for the blood sugar to get it tested. That's
Let me just tell you the statistic right now. More than 1 in 3 people have pre-diabetes.
More than what we know of.
And 80% of them don't even know. 80% of them don't even know that they have it. So it is crucial that you go and, get tested and find out, because the sooner you find out, the chances of you reversing it is so much easier. Once you've crossed that threshold, I talk about reversing diabetes, but I'm going to be honest with you. In the medical community, they don't call it reversing it. They call it remission. Once you're diagnosed with diabetes, it stays on your chart forever. So if you're in that pre-diabetes state, you have a chance to not even have that be on your medical chart. So yes, go and get that done. And here's the thing with obesity and being overweight. I really feel like we talked about all the passengers on the train, that you may be overwhelming your body with a lot of sugar or energy. And I want to invite people to kind of think about, this was what I was doing. Maybe not everyone's doing this, but for me, I was using food as a way to numb or to make myself feel better because I didn't like feeling uncomfortable and I wanted to discharge the feelings that I was having.
Very common. That's a very common thing. Yeah. Emotional eating. Yeah.
Yep. And so emotional eating. And that was just my situation. And I know not everyone's in that boat, but if that is in fact what's going on, let me tell you, when you get on the other side and you get the tools to manage and not feel like you have to react in that way, you can manage your stress and you can manage your emotions. You are so much happier and healthier. And that's what I want for everyone, to be the happiest and the healthiest versions of themselves.
And you feel so much more powerful as well because you've done it yourself. Yeah, I really get that. I really get that.
Yeah, the empowerment piece is the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Jelina, oh my God, I could talk to you all day. It's been so much fun and I'm so delighted and thank you for your time. So folks, reach out to Jelina. She has so much to offer. She's so knowledgeable in both the clinical and the holistic side of things. And Jelina is going to give us her free gift as well. So do check that out as well. And follow her on Facebook. Oh my God, this lady is incredible. And don't miss out on this. Yeah. So, and maybe if you're not, it could be a family member who's obese or overweight or who has diabetes as well. So do check out all our information. So Jelina, it's been amazing. Have a wonderful day and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.
I do hope you are enjoying these conversations, and to help me continue pushing these videos and audio podcasts together, I do have an ask. I do need support to help me to keep bringing you knowledge and insights. There is a Patreon link, patreon.com/empowering family health, or you can make a donation via PayPal. All the links are in the description and the pinned comment. You can do a one-off or you can do a monthly support. So I'd really appreciate that. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Take care.